Now coming to the detailed analysis of the poem Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats. This is a kind of a complicated lyrical poem, and the poet seeks a relief from this terrible existence and the suffering of the life by escaping to the imaginary world of a nightingale. On listening to the song of this nightingale, the beautiful song of the nightingale, he just want to escape from this present life, because from the introduction, now you know that Keats was having such a terrible time in 1818, that one of his brothers died and another brother departed from him by getting married, and he's alone, and he got criticized by many people so harshly for his literary production. So somehow he was very much down or depressed with all these things that happening, and his deteriorating health condition. So everything made him so fragile and so disappointed. So somehow he wants to escape from this the very humdrum existence of this life. So the exalted emotions that the poet feels about the transience of the nature and the reality is expressed in this particular poem. There are 8 stanzas of 10 lines each, and iambic pentameter is executed in this poem, except for the 8th line in every stanza. Okay, the 8th line in every stanza is not keeping this iambic pentameter pattern, but all the other lines. This A B C D is the rhyme scheme of this particular poem. The poem is an expression of Keats' feelings rising in his heart at the hearing of the melodious song of this bird, I told you. The song of the nightingale moves from the poet to the depth of his heart and creates in him a heartache and a numbness as is created by the drinking of hemlock. He thinks that the bird lives in a place of beauty. When he hears the nightingale's song, he is entrenched by its sweetness, and his joy becomes so excessive that it changes into a kind of pleasant pain. He is filled with the desire to escape from the world of chaos to the world of beautiful places of the bird. Moreover, Keats put forward several concepts in this poem, including life, death, disappointment, failure, sorrow, grief, time, brevity, then activities, eating, drinking, nature, animals, landscapes, pastorals, trees, flowers, religion, Christianity, art, science, music, what more? Everything is included in this poem. When you listen this particular lecture, you must keep the poem with you and go line by line and just see how it goes. Okay, it's not easy, or it's not that possible for me to express and explain everything in detail, as it is an audio lecture. So make a background study and find your own readings and analysis and understandings of the poem based on these lectures. Okay. So see, my heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains my sense, as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains 1 minute past, and lethe words had sunk. It's not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness, that thou light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beechen green, and the shadows numberless, singest the summer in full-throated ease. Okay, this is the first stanza. In the first stanza, in the first line, the poet says, "My heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains my sense." My heart aches because his heart is aching because of listening to the beautiful song of the nightingale. This heart aches has, there are many interpretations for this particular term, that my heart aches, because one thing is like his intense wish or his intoxicated nature, the intoxicated status he is having at that moment. My heart aches that I cannot join you, or I desperately want to join your happy song or something like that. And the second thing is that Keats had an opinion that like the ache of wanting. If a perfect thing, like in Keith's opinion, a perfect work of art will definitely create such an ache in the observer or the reader. Okay, because if you see something so beautiful, take for an example of a painting. If the painting is so attractive or so beautiful and it influences you like anything, definitely you will feel an artistic ache that you cannot be in that particular position, or you cannot be attached to that thing. Okay, the ache of wanting to bridge the distance between ourselves and the object of beauty. Okay, such an ache should be initiated if the work of art is so perfect. This is Keith's opinion, and Keats once suggested that he lacked this aesthetic urgency which is necessary to create such an ache on seeing the painting of the American painter Benjamin West. Okay, Benjamin West paintings were lacking this kind of an aesthetic urgency that creates this kind of an ache. So this is what Keats mentioned. So as it is Keats' own observation, the later critics comments that the ache, the heart ache which he feels at the beginning of this particular poem, maybe he finds the Nightingale song to be so perfect, the perfect outcome of a perfect artistic outcome. So he feels that ache, that wanting to bridge the distance between himself and the object of beauty. That is the Nightingale song. That may be the reason for this heartache. Okay, and the drowsy numbness pains my sense as though of hemlock I had drunk. It's not only of like an intoxicated state just caused by the wine, but he feels like he has consumed hemlock. Hemlock is a highly poisonous plant, and in ancient Greece, hemlock was used to poison the condemned prisoners. Socrates is considered a victim of hemlock poisoning. That's why hemlock is so famous. And he feels like he had consumed this hemlock and emptied some dull opiate to the drains 1 minute past. So he feels like some opium, okay, some drugs has induced into his veins, and he lost his consciousness. Now he is completely in a different state, which is totally. And again, the comparison is with and Lite words hard sung. Lite is another a Greek underworld river, and it is known as the river of oblivion or forgetfulness. One who drinks from this river completely forgets the earthly life. Okay, so if you if it, or if the poet has drunken the water from Lite, that means he has completely forgotten about the worldly affairs or his worldly life or whatever he is going through. Now completely he is in a totally different and intoxicated state. Okay, and he again says, it's not through envy of thy happy Lord. The aching, my heart aching, or my this condition is not for the envy of thy happy Lord. I'm not envious that you are so happy and you are having such a beautiful voice or beautiful song, but being too happy in thy happiness, I am also very happy in your happiness, that thou light-winged dryad of the trees. Dryad means like wood nymphs. He is comparing the nightingale to a wood nymph or a fairy like that. And some melodious plot. The plot itself got melodious because of the echoing of the song of this nightingale. Melodious plot is an example of synesthesia, which is the mixing up of sensory feelings. Okay, a melodious plot of beach and green. Beach and green means there are the place is filled with many trees of beach category, and it is full of green there, and shadows numberless. You can see in a thick wood, definitely there will be lots and lots of trees which cast the shadows of them. And he mentions, or he imagines, or he visualizes a thick forest from which he could listen the voice or the beautiful song of the nightingale, and the nightingale is singers the summer in full throated ease. Okay, when the nightingale is so happy, it sings in full throated ease, and that is so marvelous. So the life where the nightingale dwells, okay, and the things around the nightingale are so good, so that it can sing like this. Okay, then quality of the nature that are apart from man's experience. The place where the nightingale is a place which has high quality of nature that are apart from man's experience. Man cannot experience such a place from where the nightingale sings. It is such a beautiful place, and so that the nightingale can sing in such a beautiful way. This is how speaks in the first stanza of this poem, and in the second stanza, his intense longing to leave the present world, his present world of existence, and to join the world of nightingale is very much visible. See, of far a draught of vintage that hath beaten cooled a long age in the deep delved earth, tasting of flora and the country green, dance and provincial song and sunburned mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of warm south, full of the true and blushful hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim and purple stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. Okay, so here says like he needs a draught of vintage. Vintage means the wine made of grapes. How the vintage should be, or how the wine should be, he's explaining that hath been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth. So you know how the wines are made, right? You know, we will keep those things in the caskets, and we will bury the thing under the earth, so that it will be so strong, so tasty, and so intoxicating. So he needs such a wine, such a vintage which is cooled long age, for long years it should be cooled or buried into the earth, in deep delved earth, tasting the flora and the country green. It should taste the flora, and because all that earthly taste should be there in the vintage. And dance and provincial song and sunburnt mirth. You can see like dance, a song, or this sunburnt mirth is the happiness. It shows the happiness. These are the three things with which we can temporarily forget our sadness or what we are going through. Okay, if you are much involved into a dance or a song or such a happiest joyful situation, then you will, at least for some moments, you will definitely forget your worries and problems, right? So he was connecting to that. So the vintage, the wine can definitely cause the wine should have all these qualities that a man gets from dance, provincial songs, and sunburnt mirth. So the wine should contain all these elements for a beaker full of the warm south. The south part is so warm, and it is the most wonderful climate that we can have, full of true, the blushful hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim. And what is Hippocrene? This is a personification to, he's personifying Hippocrene, like saying blushful Hippocrene. Okay, Hippocrene is a fountain or a spring created by the winged horse Pegasus. Pegasus stamped its hoof into the ground and thus created or originated this particular fountain. And people think like if someone drinks from this fountain, he or she may supposed to have poetic inspiration. Okay, so soon after telling about this particular wine and all, he is speaking about what a beaker full of the warm south, full of true, the blushful hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim and purple stained mouth, like beaded bubbles. You can visualize, that is the peculiarity of his writing. Beaded bubbles. Okay, the beaded bubbles are winking at the brim. Just imagine a beaker full of wine. Definitely, if you pour wine into a beaker, on the top you can see like this beaded bubbles. right, it will be full of bubbles, and the bubbles will be some bubbles may dissolve and some come again, so it's kind of winking. Okay, he's comparing this beaded bubbles into winking, winking at the brim. At the brim it is winking, and purple stained mouth. He is comparing the brim of the beaker, or the edge part of the beaker to its mouth. Okay, kind of personification again, and it's purple stained, because you can see when you grape wine, especially if you pour grape wine into a beaker or a glass, you can see the brim will be stained into purple. Okay, the brim will be stained into purple. That's why he says like, and the purple stained mouth. I might drink this and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. I want to drink such a powerful wine which gives the effect of dance, song, and sunbird mirth, which is cooled in the deep delved earth for long years, and it should taste flora and the country green, and it should definitely be like this hippocrene, which gives me a poetic inspiration, and all those beaded bubbles winking at the brim, and and which makes a purple stained mouth for the beaker, and I might drink this particular wine and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. With you, with the nightingale, I'll also come, and I will also fade away into the forest dim. We have already mentioned to the forest or the thick place of beech and green and shadows numberless, right? So into that place I'll come. Again in the third stanza he says like, fade far away, dissolve and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known. The weariness, the fever and the fret here, where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies, where but to think is to be full of sorrow and leaden-eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. Okay, so here, fade far away, dissolve and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known. Okay, so I have to fade far away from this place, I have to dissolve from this place, and I have to quite forget this place, forget what or where, what thou among the leaves. Thou among the leaves means the nightingale. Okay, the nightingale is from the woods or the forest, so he calls it thou among the leaves. Has never known. The nightingale is never ever familiar with the lifestyle or the problems or the things that the poet undergoes. Okay, so he says like, I want to go away from, or dissolve into, or like forget something which you never know. What? The weariness, the fever and the fret here, where men sit and hear each other groan. In this place where I am dwelling, only weariness, only fever, only fret, stress and problems are there. Okay, everyone is groaning with each other. Everyone has to say only depressive things to others. Nothing is there to be happy. See, this is a place where palsy shakes a few. Palsy shakes a few means he is mentioning the old age people, sad last grey hairs, because palsy means this paralysis, the paralyzed state that old age people are undergoing. So palsy shakes a few, and some are sad last grey hairs, that means the difficulties of the old age. Okay, that is here, where youth grows pale, not only the old ones, where youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies. Here he particularly mentions the tuberculosis disease and the death of his younger brother Tom, who was very young when he was dying. So the young grows pale. If you get affected with tuberculosis, you go pale, and you go thin, and then later you die. So this is what he is mentioning here. Then Where but to think is to be full of sorrow. Even thinking is full of sorrow here. You can't even think of a good thing here. Even thinking is filled with full of sorrows. And leaden-eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes. Leaden-eyed means heavy-eyed despairs, because of this lack of sleeps or this problems and all this weariness. The eyes are like heavy-eyed despair. The eyes got heavy-eyed because of this despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes. Beauty is personified here. As she grows old, eyes lose that their luster. Nothing is constant here. Everything is changing. Okay, no one can keep everything as such. Or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. So nothing is constant. Even if you love, no one is constant. Everyone dies. Even young or old, everyone is dying. And even love cannot be constant here. What can be happen to the love is uncertain. And this is also the time when he was in love with Fanny, but at the same time, simultaneously, he was having problems with her on the basis of his financial difficulties and his deteriorating health condition. So this is what he is hinting here. Okay, the youth lives under the gloom of death, and beauty becomes tainted by the knowledge that it is passing. Okay, everything is passing, because after a particular age, when your birthday comes, you will definitely feel like, oh, I am getting old. Okay, when your schooling is over, during that time you won't understand, but after your schooling you feel like going back to the school. So everything is passing. So thus, in a normal man's existence, both beauty and the response to beauty are undermined by the limiting nature of time and death. That is what he is mentioning here. And again he says, away, away, for I will fly to thee. Away, away, I am coming to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his parts, but on the viewless wings of poesy. Okay, now he is ready to leave this world of fret and fever, and away, away, for I'll fly to thee. Thee means the nightingale. I'll fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his parts. Bacchus is the Roman god of wine and drunkenness. He usually rides, his chariot is usually drawn by leopards. Okay, that's why he is saying parts means leopards. And so not by Bacchus means not with the help of wine. Okay, he was longing for such a powerful wine so that he can escape from this particular world. But now he says like it's not charioted by the Bacchus and his parts, but on the viewless wings of poesy. Okay, with the viewless wings of poesy, I am trying to escape or come to your place. Though the dull brain perplexes and retards, already with thee tender is the night, and happy the queen moon is on the throne, clustered around by all her starry face. But here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown, through verdurous gloom and winding mossy ways. And here, that is, he has decided already that he'll be going to he'll be approaching the nightingale through the wings of poesy. Though the dull brain perplexes and retards, his dull brain, of course, which is human in nature, the dull brain, of course, perplexes him and sometimes retards him. That's the intense poetic fancy, like wine releases a person from the clarity and logic for the dull brain, right? So he is saying like, at times my dull brain perplexes me, but already with thee tender is the night. Already I'm with thee, tender is the night. Are you familiar with this tender is the night? It's a novel, it's the name of a novel by Scott Fitzgerald, and it is taken from this particular poem, tender is the night, and he is so happy. Okay, and happily the queen moon is her throne, clustered around by her starry face. Starry face means it's full of stars. The fantasy, the fairies. Face means the fairies in European legends. So he can see the moon covered with, it's a metaphorical representation, surrounded by so many stars. But here there is no light. Wherever he stays now, there is no light. He can't see anything clearly. Say what from heaven is with the breezes blown through verdurous gloom and winding mossy ways. He can have only a little light. From where he got that light, so that what from heaven is with the breezes blown that light to him through verdurous gloom and winding mossy ways. Likewise, he got a little light, and with which he sees the starry moon and all those things, where he cannot see everything completely. But already with the nightingale, he has left the fretful life of the world, and now he has joined the world of the nightingale. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet. Okay, I cannot see everything properly, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs. But in an embalmed darkness, guess each sweet. Each sweet means each sweet plant, each sweet flowers. Okay, wherewith a seasonable month endows the grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild. So he sees, he feels so many things around, so many flowers, so many sweet smells around him. The grass, the thicket, the fruit tree wild, everything he can guess, and he guesses each flower depending on the month. Okay, it makes his sense of smell stronger, as he cannot see everything. So he says, like white hawthorn and the pastoral eglantine, fast fading violets cover up in the leaves, and the mid-May's eldest child, which is the mid-May's eldest child, the coming musk rose, full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. So he is mentioned, like in the world of the nightingale, you can see such things like the beautiful flowers, the beautiful trees, thickets, the fruitful trees, all those things. Okay, so depending on the month, based on the month, Keats is guessing or thinking these can be the flowers here, or they can be the trees here. Keats' perception, penetrating to the essence of things, provides him with intimations of immortality. Okay, all these things are immortal, because as the seasons pass by, everything will come again and again and again. When May comes, definitely the musk roses will come again. Okay, so it shows a kind of immortality of the world of the nightingale. He points not to disillusions and unconsciousness, but to positive satisfactions. And again, coming to the senses of hearing and smell are very much evident at this place. And coming to the next stanza, Darkling, I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with the easeful death. Call him soft names in many a mused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to seize upon the midnight with no pain, while thou art pouring forth the soul abroad in such an ecstasy. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain, to thy high requiem become a sword. What is this? Death is a way of escaping. Now he is thinking like, Darkling, I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with easeful death. We know that he was in the thought of giving up the literary productions for some time, and he says here, I have been half in love with easeful death many a time, and called him soft names in many a mused rhyme. That much in love with death I was. He is partially in love with death now. Okay, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more so call him soft names in many a mused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Many a times I wonder why death is not coming to me, and now more than ever seems it rich to die. At this moment, when I am away from the world, when I am in such an ecstatic position, I feel like this is the best or perfect time or a rich time to die, to seize upon the midnight with no pain. I won't feel any pain at this moment because I'm that much happy. I'm full of happiness now, and at that peak level of happiness or that fulfillment, he feels like this is the best time to die. While thou art powering forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy, because the nightingale is singing at a full throttled ease, and this is the best time to die when you are pouring your soul abroad. Okay, rather than this, apart from this, there is no or there won't come any such best time to die. Still wouldst thou sing, even if I die, the death will end his perception of the same immortal beauty. Okay, but still wouldst thou sing, even after my death, you will continuing the singing, and I have ears in vain. Ears in vain mean I have no ears. I won't be listening it anymore. To thy high requiem become a sword. The musical composition performed after someone died is called requiem, and after the poet dies, what the nightingale song will be a requiem, and your requiem become a sword. A sword means like a turf-like place where nothing can be, like he'll be no more to listen into that. So for your requiem, I won't be listening because I have already. But even after my death, you will be continuing your song like this. The immortality of the nightingale is explained there. Then again he is saying in the next stanza, thou was not born for death, immortal bird. No hungry generation treated thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth when sick for home. She stood in tears amid the alien corn. The same that ofttimes hath charmed the magic casements opening on the form of perilous seas in fairy lands forlorn. And here he is addressing the nightingale again. Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird. Okay, he is using so many archaic expressions, archaic words to enhance the effect of the immortality of the bird, and he is addressing the bird as immortal bird. Okay, this is a kind of thing that he directly speaks to the nightingale, which cannot listen or respond, and this poetic technique is called apostrophe. Okay, and thou wasn't not born for death, immortal bird. No hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. So the nightingale's voice is a kind of democratic thing which is of ancient nature, because from ancient days itself, sorry, not of ancient nature, but from the ancient days itself, the nightingale song is there, and still it is there, and with the same effect, same impact. And the poet is very much sure that no hungry generations tread thee down, because many generations have already passed, and many revolutions, many wars, many things have occurred in this world, and nothing has downed this world. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. Everyone, in every generation, in every time, from the ancient time onwards, everyone is listening to your voice or your song. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth. Ruth is a character in the Old Testament. Also, he is alluding to the Bible. The biblical allusion is here. And Ruth hasn't left her in-laws even after she got widowed. She was highly homesick, but still she kept staying there. So he says, like, when Ruth is in the alien cornfield, okay, longing for the home, she also must have listened to your beautiful song. The deep and piercing sadness of Ruth also must have consoled by your song. The same that oft times hath charmed magic casements, opening the form of perilous seas in fairy lands forlorn. So he is imagining the fairy lands and all those magic stories and all those things, and imagines the bird flying out of an open window over the remote ocean in a fantasy world filled with fairies. So it shows the how old the Nightingale's song is. Okay, from the ancient time onwards, it is there and it still keeps on. It still enjoys and entertains the people. It still gives a kind of joy and power, so that a man can think of even death at this time. So it gives such a kind of wonderful effect on people, for people for a long time. Okay, for a long period. That's what he is saying there. It is the Nightingale song that echoes through the history and outlives each individual bird. Okay, this is the Immortal Bird, and he says like the Nightingale song is a song that echoes through history, outlives the individual birds, each individual birds, because he's not speaking about a single nightingale, but he speaks about nightingale as a category. Okay, it's a metaphorical representation. So it outlives each individual nightingale, but it gives us a common effect, that nightingale song. Okay, he is speaking about through this historical representation, or this historical evidences, like Emperor Clown's Ruth, and he has given so many examples like this. These magical stories, casements and all those things. So through this historical evolution, he speaks of the Nightingale's history, that it outlives each individual bird. Now, of perilous seas in fairy lands forlorn. Then the next stanza, the final stanza, starts with the same word, forlorn. The very word is like a bell to toll me back from thee to my soul self. Okay, so the word forlorn tolls like a bell to restore the speaker from the preoccupation with the nightingale and back to himself. Okay, and adieu means farewell. Okay, farewell, adieu. The fancy cannot cheat so well as she is famed to do deceiving elf. Okay, he compares fancy to a mischievous little elf who likes to fool people. Okay, fancy is famous for, or imagination of famous for fooling people, because you can imagine whatever you want, right? At this moment you are here, and on the next moment in your imagination you can be in one of the favorite places of yours, or you can be whoever you wish to, and you can be in that imagination for some time. But can you continue it for all along? No, you can't, because there is a limit. Fancy cannot cheat so well. Likewise, he is also understanding that he was in a state of fancy, and now the forlorn, the bell is there, and he is back to his self now, and he is understanding or realizing that fancy cannot cheat for a long time. Adieu, adieu, the plaintive anthem fades past the near meadows, over the still stream, up the hillside, and now it's buried deep in the next valley glades. And what he says, like, adieu, adieu, the plaintive anthem fades, the anthem or the song of the Nightingale's song fades past the near meadows, over the still stream, up the hillside, and now it's buried. He could see the fading song of the Nightingale, first past the near meadows, then over the still stream, and now the hillside, and he can feel that the song of the Nightingales, he keep burying in the next valley glades. Then he says, was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music. Do I wake or sleep? That music is fled now. Was that a vision or a waking dream? Am I awake or sleep? Now he cannot even identify what his status is. Okay, so the Nightingale song has given such an intoxicating effect for him, so that he cannot even realize or understand whether he is awake or asleep. So this is how Keats has written onto a nightingale, and the impact of the Nightingale song on him.